I'm Dana Healy, and you're listening to Cities Speak.
Welcome back to City Speak. Our guest today is Kari Niedfeldt-Thomas, the newly elected mayor of the City of New Brighton. Mayor Niedfeldt-Thomas received 57% of the votes in the 2020 election. Mayor Niedfeldt-Thomas concurrently serves as the managing director of the Chief Executives for Corporate Purpose, also known as CECP, a CEO-led coalition that helps companies transform the social strategy. So Mayor Niedfeldt-Thomas has more than 30 years of experience in the corporate, civic, and the nonprofit sectors, intentionally blending her values in her career and community service and bringing that to the City of New Brighton. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to being able to have a conversation.
So what made you interested in getting involved with politics, but specifically the City of New Brighton?
Well, I've always had a passion to serve, and I've always volunteered for activities for my kids in the community, been very active in the Twin Cities region and nationally on a number of issues, serving on boards. And I would say that I've always thought about running for office, and it was just never the right time. Personally, I always had a lot going on with my kids and staying busy and work. And I would say that there were a number of issues over the past year that just spurred my urgency that I felt to be able to get in there and be able to make a difference. I have a lot of creativity and can see a lot of opportunities. And certainly there were a number of ways where I saw that I could bring my leadership skills and support New Brighton, the residents and the businesses. And, you know, I will say certainly that the killing of George Floyd provided this even more urgency that we have an amazing public safety department. We've not had an issue like that, but we also simultaneously need to make sure that we are reaching all of our residents and businesses and community members and having them feel that they belong. And so being able to pair how we can do all of that and have everyone be able to see those rewards was really part of my calling to be able to run for this office.
So 2020 was a year like no other with the pandemic. So what was it like campaigning during that time, and what kind of challenges did you run into connecting with the community because of the pandemic?
It was a wild time. It was what you could expect in some ways, where there were some individuals who were comfortable leaving their homes, or there were others who were not as comfortable and had to be able to adapt and have a campaign strategy that worked with both. And so I looked at a number of ways that we needed to be able to build recognition, name recognition for me. Many people knew who I was. They worked with me in a number of capacities, whether it's professionally or whether it's as a volunteer. And but I also had to be able to reach those that we could not regularly reach. And we also don't have any community newspapers in New Brighton. So that provided a new challenge. So certainly had to make sure that I had a couple of mailings get into everybody's mailboxes, had to have a door piece that when we went to the door and we knocked on the doors, we had something we could leave. I did it in a way though where we could hang it on the door so we weren't touching anybody's doorknobs. I mean, there was a lot of thought that had to be put into how you were making this feel pandemic appropriate for reaching out. Had a number of events that held at parks so that community members could show up and I could, with a mask, with sanitizer on the table, be able to talk with people, but then also held a number of Zoom calls with individuals that wanted to dial in. I had a lot of phone calls with community members who couldn't make any of those. So it was really being adaptive. And then certainly social media became almost in many ways our community newspaper, resharing, whether it was videos of different presentations or candidate forums, whether it was making sure that I was sharing my platforms and my information. So it was some ways, like I said, expected. Social media is a part of how everyone needs to campaign now. But it was also a different time in that we just had to be really adaptive as new situations came up and making sure that we were responsive to what community members wanted from the candidates.
Well, that sounds like such incredible outreach, intentionally getting out into the community and communicating in, like you said, a very adaptive way. What ways are you hoping to continue to connect with community members, especially about, different grassroots things that are happening within the city of New Brighton?
Well, I am certainly going to keep up social media and being able to communicate with residents in a number of different ways. The city also has its own platforms and ways that it's reaching out, but as a mayor, I need to be doing that. Additionally, I do plan to have regular Zoom meetings, and when it gets a little warmer out, I will be in person doing more meetings in parks. I also plan to continue going door to door. I don't believe that my role is just to go to city hall and have the city work to make decisions. The work of the city is going on out in our community, and safely we need to be able to look for opportunities when we can engage. So with a mask on 6 feet away from a door, I certainly am really comfortable knocking on a door and talking with people and listening to what their hopes and dreams are for both their family and also the city.
That's great. So, what was your reaction when you heard the news that you were elected as the mayor of New Brighton? Like, were you sitting at the kitchen table with your family? Paint a picture for us.
Sure. Well, New Brighton's information was only partially available uh, through much of the evening after the polls closed. So I could see the way that voters had cast their ballots in person, but all of the absentee ballots and the early voting was not available until probably about 1:30 in the morning. And we had, been watching results as they were coming in early on, but then I was on the couch, spaced from my mom and my husband, and we were literally doing the, scrolling, trying to refresh as we were waiting for the state of Minnesota to be able to post those results. And it was one of the volunteers on my campaign who actually texted me and said, congratulations, because he was able to scroll and got through before we did. It was very funny. So he was like, I was the person who told you. He was super excited. So that is how we found out. And I would just say it was validating for all the conversations that I had had with thousands of residents, that I knew that the message that I was carrying and the leadership that I want to contribute to the city, that those residents also felt that I had something to give. And that was that felt great. Of course, the next day, like immediately lots of phone calls from media or others around, okay, so now you're mayor, what does this mean? And there's this is a journey. This is not everything that I said that I want to see for New Brighton isn't going to happen immediately. And yet it also is an opportunity for us to really think about how we can bring new energy, pride, ideas to the community.
That's awesome. So you have an incredibly impressive background: nonprofit work, corporate responsibility. You were the president of the Neighborhood House, the ED of Mosaic, Mental Health Association of Minnesota. So, how do you feel that your past experience amplifies your ability to govern New Brighton?
So, yes, I do have a breadth of experience, and I do think those unique, multi sector, different approaches, different stakeholders has allowed me to look at New Brighton and the work that needs to happen through a new lens and through many lenses, probably in some instances. And my background, I originally started right out of college as a community organizer. I worked for Clean Water Action. I was going door to door and talking to citizens about recycling campaigns and new ways that you could look at environmental water quality issues. New Brighton has certainly had some water quality opportunities over the years and has responded well. And so I think that my ability to connect with people at a door, connect with people one-on-one. I certainly want to be able to bring that forward and continue it. My ability to look at economic development. I've done a lot of work over the last several years with startups and new business development and being able to help businesses. And I want to be able to continue that. So there's a both in there. It's residents and businesses and how we're supporting everyone. And I do think that there's an advocacy piece that a mayor needs to do for their city, both within their city and also regionally. And that ambassadorship of sorts is something that I have a lot of experience in. I have a lot of work that I've done in public affairs. I have a lot of work that I've done in building partnerships, cross-sector partnerships, bringing everyone together, and that building community by bringing everyone around a shared vision is a role that I'm excited to be able to do for New Brighton.
That's perfect. I mean, that's all the qualities we need in a leader. So, what are some of your focus areas for the City of New Brighton as you enter your new role?
I have a few areas that I've been focusing on, and one area that I had talked about during the campaign is that authentic leadership is about helping people see when it is hard to do so. And one of the challenges during the pandemic and all that has gone on over the last several months related to COVID-19. And now we're seeing that this pandemic and the virus is going to continually evolve, which we knew that would be the case. We're going to be doing this and talking about how we do our work differently as a city and respond to the needs of residents and businesses for a long time. And so I have had ongoing conversations with the city team and about the need for us to have a COVID dashboard. I talked about it during my campaign. It's actually quite important. There have been a number of different tools certain cities have taken on, and counties in the state. And we actually are working through a model. It's now open and available on the city website for residents to check out, is to have our own dashboard. We're looking right now at cases and deaths and how all the resources that are available in the community, what people can take advantage of. We're making sure that that's all noted and collected in one location. And then over time, we're going to be including information about vaccines, where people can have access to it, and what that looks like for the community broadly. But this is a journey that we're all going to be on. This is not going to be done in the next month or two. And we as a city need to make sure that we're providing accurate information for our residents and other community members. I would say another area where there has been a lot of conversation is around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Specifically, the city had an inclusive task force that met about 3 years ago, came forward with some recommendations, and those recommendations had not been implemented. And I talked about it a lot in the campaign, and actually at our very first city work session on Tuesday, and at the council meeting, we spent time talking about this, and that we do intend to start up where the name we're using right now is an inclusive commission. We have budgeted in the city for a position to start mid-year, but for us to be able to hire an individual and work with a commission, we have to have very specific outcomes that we want to achieve as a city on this area. And so we can look at diversity, which is really about representation. You can have a number of different diversity areas that you're focused on, and you can measure what that representation looks like. But to really get to the topic of inclusion, you have to be a bit more creative to make sure that people are understanding, or that you're understanding, are people feeling included in your community? Do they feel like they're welcome and that they belong? And then ultimate goal is that we would achieve equity in our community. But this is, again, another area where there will be an evolving set of priorities, an evolving set of conversations, and there will be a lot of work that we need to spend as a city in reaching out to our very diverse community. And diversity is again measured in many different ways, but as you know, those who are readily watching your shows are not necessarily always the people that you need to reach out to. And so we're going to have to spend a lot of time and effort to make sure that we're getting out there and we're connecting with community. And then there are a few other areas that I've talked about. Housing, there are a breadth of issues related to housing that we have to look at that range from our multifamily housing and making sure that we've engaged owners of those properties, and that they're making sure that they're connecting with residents and they're connecting with the city, and that we're really as a community looking at a number of issues together. And then also there are a lot of issues that have come up around the short-term rentals, the Airbnbs and the VRBOs, and that's a topic that I know a number of the suburbs have had some conversations on. So if you think about housing, that's a wide lane to go through, and we have a lot that we have to look at. And then I'll say economic development is really an area where we as a city have some opportunities. We have properties that are available, we have some vacancies, and we all know that to have a thriving community, we need to have businesses that are alive and well within a year. And we have to spend some time and make sure that we're attracting new businesses and that we're also retaining the businesses that we have. And then I would say one of my other areas that I talked a lot about is the city developing a scorecard, that we need to take our comprehensive plan and we need to look at out over a number of years how we're going to accomplish that. So those are just a few of the things that I talked about.
I love the incorporation of your measurable objectives, but also with an infinite mindset. You're really looking at the long term, the journey of it, but we're still going to have accountability and the scorecard. I love that when you were campaigning and talking about that. So, what would you like to say to the residents of New Brighton?
So, the residents of New Brighton should definitely reach out to me. My email and a phone number is on the city website. So I am available to talk and connect anytime. I will be posting on social media a regular time when I'll be available to connect with residents by Zoom. And then when it gets a little warmer, we'll be outside, because I don't think anybody wants to stand outside in the middle of snow right now and visit with me. But I will be also reaching out to a number of multifamily housing complexes so I can connect with the residents there. I will also be looking at opportunities for us to be able to look at ways we can send out information to residents that have opted in. I think that we having a regular cadence and communication plan with our community is important. We can't just wait for people to come to us. We need to go to them. And it's important for residents to also feel that when they do reach out to us, that we're listening and that we are going to be responsive and incorporate their thoughts. We can't do every single thing exactly how everyone asks us to do. Our role is to hear the volume of what people are asking, and then for us to be able to summarize that and synthesize it into some action. I can say that a lot of residents, when I was talking with them during the campaign, expressed what they hoped for me. A lot of them were saying, I want you to learn these types of issues. I want you to explore this. They were really some very intent, wise individuals giving me some advice in the community. And then a lot of residents expressed what they expect from me, what they want me to do for our community. And a number of them said, we want to bring our community together. We want to feel the pride in what we're doing as a city. We want to be out there telling our great story of who New Brighton is. And then I would just say that, really this idea of building community is about everyone being in it together. So neighbors are going to need each other during these next several months. We as a city need to have our residents be willing to step forward and say how they want to volunteer and how they want to make a difference. And we're open to any ideas that people have.
I'm really excited to see the next chapter of New Brighton with you at the helm with your other community members. So thank you so much for your time today, Mayor Niedfeldt-Thomas, and I'm hoping we can continue to connect and continue to see how New Brighton flourishes.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. To our viewers at home, you've been watching City Speaks. If you've enjoyed this content, check out one of our e-newsletters and sign up on our new website, www.9north.org.
You've been listening to City Speak. If you've enjoyed this show, please like, comment, and share on social at 9 North Media.